not, we can start. So we had talk about the static variables. Static variables in the previous in the last section. So what was it? Just to remind you, what is a static variable? Can anyone tell me what is a static variable? Yes. How we use it, for instance. It's the variables that we can access without creating an instance of that object. So normally for the instance attributes, we have to first create an instance of it and then we can use it. But for an static variable, we just don't need to create an instance. We can use it. And it is shared by all instances. If you remember that example that we did, if we change a static variable, a value of a static variable, it will affect all instances. So basically in the memory we have one copy of it only, and then all instances have access to that. If I just change it, it will affect all variables. So this was the main feature of the static variables. We also have static methods. So in a class we can define functions or methods that we will say, and also we can define static functions in that. So also they have the same similarity with these variables. Like for a function to be able to use, I have to create an instance of it. But for a static function, I don't have to. So let me just give an example for this. So I have and go to here. Then let me zoom in. So this was our example about the static variables, if you remember. So if we change the value of x through R1, then it would affect the value of it in R2 or other cases. So this was our example. Now I'm going back to the methods now. In a method, in a function of a class, we have this rectangle class, we have these functions, and here we have this calculate area, for instance. So how can I use it? How can I use this calculate area function? In order to use that, I need an instance of it, like R1, for instance. Then I can only use calculate area function. Can I use it to, like, without it, like rectangle class name and then calculate area? If I try to do it, I will not be able to run it. This is because it's not a static method. So this is a non-static method. I need an instance to run it. But let's say that we created here a static function. How can I do it? Let me do it here. Public static, any value that we want to put, maybe void, int, whatever it is. Maybe a print message, default print message maybe. Okay, I'm just making up a function now. And then in which it will just say this is a rectangle class. Okay. Now for that one, I have now a static method. The good thing here is that now I can use it default print without any need to create an instance. I can just use it through the class. I don't need an instance to run it. Can I run it through an instance? Yes, you can, but you'll see that I'm getting this yellow warning. It's just a warning, it's not an error. So the method will work. Like when I run it, let's see, I should get two results for that. Yes, this is a rectangle class coming from this execution, and this is a rectangle class from this execution. So it is doable, but if you have a static method, then it's not the way we write it. Like if you have a static method, you can call it through the class name, not from an instance. And we also have some more restrictions when we have these static methods. What is that? Now we have these two cases. Four cases: non-static variables, static variables, non-static methods, and static methods. So what does it change? Now let's look at this part, and just to not to do this scrolling up and down, I will just put it here so that we can all easily see that. Okay, so I will just copy paste these. Now in my non-static function, I can call width and height. They are also non-static variables. But can I also call this, which is x? Okay, I did. But then going to this static method, and then I would like to print this height, and also maybe I'll just try to do the same calculation. Maybe just it will be a better comparison. Maybe this is my result. Okay, when I'm trying to do it, I'm getting this red warning, which means I cannot do it. I'm not allowed to do that. So in short, in a non-static method, I can use both static and non-static variables instances. But in a static method, I can only use static ones, which is x at this point, but I cannot use the non-static ones. If I attempt to use it, I will get an error. I don't want you to memorize this. I just want to understand why it might be. Do you have any idea why this is the case? Like, I mean, of course you can memorize it, and that's fine. But you might, if you memorize it, you might confuse it at some point. So why this might be happening? Like, I can use static variables in non-static functions, but I cannot use non-static variables in static functions.
Is it because non-static variables has no instances?
No instances. Can you elaborate on it?
I mean, here width and height has nothing in it.
Mm-hmm.
So we need first to create an instance like width equals something and
Yeah.
height equals something.
So basically, to have those non-static variables a value, I need first an instance. So if I don't have that instance, I don't have that object, I don't have that parameter. So it's not created actually when at the running time. But for the static ones, I don't need an instance, so they are already available. So going back to here, this static one, I know that it will be always available, so I can run it when I have an instance also. But in this part, well, the function will be available, I don't need an instance. But for the width and height, I need an instance, so I cannot do it. Like, think it in this way. Maybe this is the pi value, okay? To calculate an area, I know that there will be a pi value always. But I need the radius to calculate the area of a circle. But I don't know, like, because it might change, like it can be also all different values. So that's what might be, that is the reason that you could, this is the way you can keep it in your mind also. Do you have any idea? So let me check if I miss anything. I said this. You call a static method through the class name. I said this. Without first, yeah, we did that. Then, well, what is the good thing? Well, actually, having static functions also helps us to write some simpler codes. Like, for instance, Java provides some libraries, classes, like from this a character class, in which it has many static functions, like is white space, is the given character, is it white space or not? Is it digit? Is it letter? Is it lowercase? Is it uppercase, and so on? So we use these methods whenever we need, and it becomes so easy for us to use them because they are static. What would happen if they were not static methods? Like whenever I need to check whether a given character is white space or not, I would need to first create an instance of a character class, and then through that instance I would be able to run this is white space function. So I would just need 2 lines of code for that. Create an instance and then call that function. Well, this sounds very unnecessary because I just want to do a very simple action. Like, is it digit or not? Is it, I don't know, a ladder or not? So for those cases, since they are static now, I just call this without any need to create an instance, and then I can proceed with my application. So this is actually makes my code much simpler, easier to read. And again, I hate typing more lines. I don't want to create an instance and then call this function. It needs 2 lines of code. I don't like it. So I need only 1 line. And static functions can be useful in that sense. Do you have any question? All right. And the last part that we will cover in this chapter is the enumerations. So what is this? Enumerations, it is you create a group, a set of related constant values. So and then we call them as a keyword also, enum, E-N-U-M. It is short for enumeration. So why we do it? Well, we create actually a data type, but we don't want to make it so generic so people can assign different values. Like, for instance, for the gender, like I want to say, okay, I want a gender data type, but I just want it to be male or female. I want to have the directions, so I just want to have north, south, east, west. So I don't want the developer to create a new direction that doesn't exist. It should be only one of those 4, okay? So for those cases, they are constant and they are related, and I want to give them maybe a class name, like directions, okay? And then in this data type, you have only 4 options, north, south, and east, west. So this is how we do it, and then we will use this enum for the data type, for the keyword and then we will give a name for our for this grouping. Again, as another example, it can be days of week. So again, I don't want you to come up with some creative date name. I just want you to have Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and up to these 7 values. It shouldn't be different than this. But interestingly, and we will see, like this is, I just define a constant values. But I can also define constructors, attributes, and methods for this data type. And we will see why is it and how is it done. So first, enums are implicitly final. What it means is, when you define an enum value, even though you don't label it as final, you don't type final, Java will consider them as final. And also they are static. So you don't need to say we'll see an example. Let's look at this example. For instance, we have this within a main method. I define an enum, okay, and its name is level. And then for that one, I just need 3 level values, like low, medium, and high. Okay, just 3. Now here, when I'm talking about this, now I didn't say that okay, it is constant. I didn't say that it is final or it is static, but it will be considered as final. How? Well, you see this as an example. Like now, I will use this like a data type. Now I define level. Then I'm using it as if it's an object, like level, and technically it is an object. Anyway, level, then as a variable name, my var. Then I'm setting the level.medium. I'm not saying new level. I'm treating it as a static value, like level.medium. I didn't create an instance, but I access that value like a static value because it is static. Okay. And if you try to create, if I try to say, okay, level my var is equal to new level, I would get an error because it is static. I'm not creating an instance of it. It is a static value. And to reach enum values, even though you don't define, there will be a values function which will allow you to iterate over the values that is defined. Like, now let's look at this example, for instance. Again, we create an enum with the level and with the name level, and then we put all these low, medium, high, whatever we need. And then here I will say level my var is equal to level.medium. So I just said that I created one data for that, and when I'm trying to print it, it will basically treat these names as a string. So when I'm trying to print this my var, it will be basically print medium. And well, maybe I want to know what levels I defined. So basically I have 3, so I want to iterate over them. How I can do it? Well, I will use this values function. So basically this values function, even though we didn't define it here, as you can see, Java will put it for you. Let me say it in this way. So, and this is a for each loop. We didn't see it before. This is a different for each loop, but this is basically the for loops that we use in Python. In a Python, what is a for loop? Well, you have a list, and then you iterate over that list, right? You basically say my var in level dot value. So if it was Python, we would say this. We would use this in keyword. This is its Python Java version. This is called for each loop. How can I translate it to English? For each level my var in this list, do these operations. So basically what this statement is saying, basically it prints all the level values I defined, so it should print low, medium, and high. I don't need, but I can also put. So curly brackets, I mean, if it is one line, yeah, it is optional whether you put it or not. There's also one more example. Again, how can I use it? Like, again, I defined my enum as low, medium, high. And then within my main class, I first create my level, which to medium. And then I'm using, I can also use it in a switch case. Like I put switch my var and then put all the cases like low, medium, and high. And then based on that, it will detect, it will run, and it will print medium level for this example. So to sum up for enum, what is that? We use it when we have a constant values, related values like months, names, days in a week, levels in a game. I don't know. Maybe in a company you are a hierarchy of the positions. You might put it something that you don't people to change. They will not be able to assign values, and you want to easily reach it. You might say, can I implement it in a different way? Yeah, you could. Like what you could do is, for this example, you could create static final strings with those names, low, medium, high, and then you can also use it. But then what you would also need to deal with this list. Like then people might say, okay, what was our values, levels? Was it 3 or 4? So it might be confusing because you don't put them in one place. You define them all there, and you will not be able to reach and iterate over all your levels. So it will just make your code more complicated. So if you have this kind of a case, it is much better to go with an enum. And I had said that enums, you can define constructor, methods, and attributes. So this is weird. like because I just said that it is data type. But actually now, it is more than that. It is actually, I can even say it is actually a class. Enum is actually, if I say that, okay, enum color, actually, from a technical perspective, what I'm doing is actually, I'm creating actually a class that's name is color. Then, well, you'll say, okay, what is this red, green, blue then? Well, basically, they are public static objects within that color class. So when I type this, okay, when you type this, internally, it is converted into this class color and public static final color, which is my data type with the class that I defined, red, which is, again, I put the red. And then I say the new color, which is the default parameter, the constructor that Java also puts. So it is creating basically 3 different objects that has the type color, and this is its names. But again, software developers hate typing. So Java says, okay, you don't need to type all these. If you just type this, I will just convert it to that one. Okay? This is actually what is happening. And then, well, I can, since now it is actually a class, I can define constructors and even attributes and functions. Like how it can be. Now look at this enum. I'm setting traffic light. So again, why am I using traffic light? Because I don't want people to define some more colors for my traffic light. It should be only these 3. Okay, so we are very strict on that. But then for the traffic light, well, maybe when I'm implementing it, some of them says maybe it should be for 1 minute, and then the yellow should go with, I don't know, 4 seconds, whatever it is. So they might be different. They are all traffic light colors, but their duration might be different. So I want to also put that in it. So how can I do it? Well, I'm first introducing this duration attribute, like private, because I don't want others to reach it. And I don't want to change that also, like because eventually those will be constant. So it's final and then an integer value that I'll keep. Then how can I set it? Well, I need to create a constructor which takes a parameter, the duration, and then I'm setting this duration so that I'm able to change that attribute with that parameter. But now you notice that, okay, I have these parentheses like green 50, yellow 4, red 60. What does it mean? Well, it's basically we are calling these constructors here with that parameter. So basically, I'm setting green with the duration 50, yellow 40, and red, the duration for the red is 60. And then I can also even define a function. Maybe I want to get the duration for red. What is it? So maybe I can define those kind of functions if I need. So I can define any function. In this case, it's a gather function for the duration, and then it just returns duration. And then how can I use it?
So, shouldn't the last one be a parameter, the color? The color should be a parameter to it?
In which one?
The last one.
The gap duration?
So duration for what color?
Oh, that's a good question. So duration, I want to return this duration, which is an integer. So that's why we are returning integer. And this get duration is actually a method of the color class.
Yeah.
So it will not return a class. It will not the class itself. It will return the integer value, the duration of it.
But shouldn't be the color supplied to it? So it returns the specific duration of a color.
That's a very good question. Let's see how we use it, and then if it doesn't answer your question, we will check it again, okay? So again, now how can we use it? Now we have this traffic light enum that we defined here. Now I'm first using this traffic light instance, and then I'm setting, okay, this will be green. So again, I didn't say new, by the way, so this is important. This is like, again, a static one, okay? Like, I'm going back. This is the static ones. So I should not, I'm not saying that, okay, I cannot use new here. And then this value of is a function that you can just use. It's when you put the green, it will return the value of when I put the string. Sorry, it will basically return you this traffic light object, the enum, that have the value of green. So actually, these are two different, two same things actually. And then, okay, we can just run light state value. This will be its print. And then when I'm trying to attempt to print that enum value, which is this variable, it will basically convert its name, which is green, to string. Okay? And when I'm trying to convert it to string, it will return me the same part. So what is this toString? Well, I think this is the first time that we are seeing. toString is a very famous method in Java classes. Basically, it's a function that returns string. It exists in all objects, even though you define it or not. But it is usually, we'll see it later on when we talk about the inheritance, but it is a function that you can modify to represent your object as a string. So for this one, it is basically saying that just green. And then, now what we are doing here is, again, we have a for each loop. We are using this var. So again, after Java, I think 10, we are able to use this var, which means that it can be either integer or float, whatever data type. It's now closer to Python in that sense. And then traffic light dot values. So the values will return me the list of traffic lights we have, which is, in our case, it should be green, yellow, and red. And then for each of them, I will just print its name, and then a text, and then the duration. So its name is green, stays on 4. Now this get duration function I'm using. So what is the state? State is the green one. So that's why now when I call the get duration, it will basically call the duration of green, which is 50. When it is yellow, when I call it for yellow, it will return 4. Why? Because I define it here to be 4. And so on. Do you have any questions for Enum? Yes, please.
When we're using the for loop on the enumeration, we're going over all of it always? We don't have a counter or a way to stop?
Oh, that's a very nice question. Yeah, the values give me all the list. But let me ask you, okay, if you would like to stop at some point, how would you do that?
If and break.
Yes. So I can use the break function. Maybe, let's say that I want to stop in the second one, then I can put a counter, and then once it reaches to 2, let's say, then I'll just break. So I can always break by checking the conditions. But the values returns all of them, yes. Yes,
In the
please.
enumeration class, can you go back?
Sure.
Here, we have a get duration, but we don't have a set duration. How are we setting it in the first place?
That's a very nice question. First, yeah, they are static, so we don't want to change them, actually.
Oh, okay.
But how do we set it? Like, why is it 4? Here it is defined in this way. Within the constructor, I'm setting the duration. So at the time of creation, I'm setting the duration. And then how I do it like this. I set this for. What is this for? When I run this, actually, it is basically running this. Putting 4 here and setting 4 for the yellow, for setting 60 for red, and so on. So yeah, I don't want to put set here, but I want to put, I can do any other action on that. All right. So programming conventional best practices. I mean, you can make all the attributes private and then provide setters and the getters. It's usually the best way. Of course, there might be some scenarios that you need non-private attributes, but mostly it's not the case. And class name starts with an uppercase. So if it is a lowercase, people will think that it's just a variable or a function. Method names or the variable names start with a lowercase. And yeah, we really need to pay attention to the commands. Of course, during an exam, you don't have time to write a command, but in real life, in professional coding, yes, companies also, they force you actually to write a command. It is not a good thing to write a code that you can only understand. And also, indentation does not have any meaning as in Python, but it makes your code readable. That's why it is important.